here at Mac Life Church in Blairsburg, Iowa, and I just want to show you what we did the last few days. So this space right here, we got some B-roll of it. There was a SQ7 that the audio was being mixed on. It's actually still here in the corner there. So we were using that to mix the audio for the online congregation, but as you all know, we love Ableton and mixing on that. You can just get a lot more precise with your mixing than you can with a console. You use plugins that you can use. So we love this solution, and if I had my camera earlier, you would have heard the person that was mixing this morning talk about how much easier it was to walk up to this and mix, how less intimidating it was than a mixing console for new people to walk into. So we've got a couple tools here. Stream Deck. Spent some time setting this up and some time setting up the tablet for controlling it, but this morning as we were mixing, we were spending a lot of time just using the software to control it. So we have a much better sound online through this setup, and it is much cleaner, much easier to look at. As someone that's wanting to learn how to do audio, they walk into this and it's less intimidating. So that was a really great part of this trip, is just getting this whole thing switched over. Much cleaner sound. One of my favorite things about this setup particular is that I'm utilizing just this audio interface, and we're coming in from the computer, so we can easily flip this from input to playback, and we're able to listen to the mix, or we can open up Chrome or whatever browser you use and listen to the online mix as well once that has been through the live streaming process. We have a course on how to use this template. This template I just pulled in, and we didn't really make a ton of adjustments. Today we just had piano, guitar, and vocals, but very little needed to be done to make it workable. But something that is new that I will probably be adding to this template is something that one of our broadcast mix mastery students came up with. They came up with a solution for being able to listen to a soloed channel using the headphone button there on the software and have it so that it does not interrupt what the broadcast online congregation hears. So I'm excited about that. Probably be making a how-to tutorial video on that, but that was one of my favorite things about this, is being able to solo it and not having the more clunky hardware version of having a solo button. Previously there was the mixing console and a lot of cabling going on here, but now we're just pulling in all the audio from the front of house SQ7 over Dante. It's coming in here and it's sending the audio over Dante back to the soundboard as well as over to this room over here, which is the broadcast video room. Previously in this room, the setup was this video switcher would pull in all of the cameras, as well as the computer graphics from this ProPresenter instance that was just for the live stream, and both of these would go into this computer running OBS. So we've consolidated so that the video cameras come into the video switcher. The output of that goes into our ProPresenter computer, which we set up a new one, Mac Mini, and now this puts all the graphic overlays on it and goes to the live stream as well as throughout the building. The audio coming into here is Dante from the room over, so that's nice and clean. And then all of this audio video gets sent out over some video AVL distribution centers throughout the rest of the building. You can't tell too much from this view here, but we have had a ton of cables removed between the broadcast audio and the broadcast video rooms, so it is a much cleaner setup than it was previously. The main priority of this trip was to take care of that broadcast audio, switching from the additional SQ7 just for broadcast to using Ableton Live, but a lot of it also ended up being taking out a lot of unnecessary cables from this space, but we're also able to think about future plans. So I was able to take measurements of another room in this building. There's not the main sanctuary worship space, but rather a cafe overflow space that gets used for a lot of things. So I'm excited to take those measurements and photos back home, and we'll make sure to get a design drawn up so that we can figure out what the best speaker configuration is for that space. Another big part of this trip was thinking through what's next. If you've ever been a part of a ministry that you've been there for a long time, technology has changed, things get updated, and you start to figure out, we need to connect this system to this system. This one is a little outdated, so we need to have some sort of adapter to get to this one. And then you end up having tons of adapters and extra cables. And so we're able to think, if we're starting afresh or if we're upgrading and we're making things as simple as possible with the least amount of adapters and cables and the most simple but robust workflow, what would that be? So I was able to be in here and actually think about what has to happen, where do the cables have to go throughout the building, whether it be to the cafe on this side or to the tech booth over there or to the student center, all those different spaces within this building. How are we going to make sure that we have the best setup for that? So that was a big part of this trip as well. One other thing I did for this trip was adjust the drum tones on the electronic drum kit. We also added the ability for a virtual sound check using this computer next to the front of house SQ7. So now this has a Dante card in it, and it also has the USB card. So the USB card is coming over to this computer. We're able to use Ableton Live again, this time just for recording and playback, so that we can come over here and set our inputs to come from the computer instead and be able to practice mixing even when there's not a band here. When this console was installed, there was a misunderstanding in that it was thought that only the stage box inputs could be used. Being that this is full, it was thought that these microphones could not be used because the stage box is full, but I was able to plug those microphones into the local inputs, and now we have those extra wireless mics. Another misunderstanding during a previous install was that this Quick Q20 was required to add some additional lights in the room, and previously here they were using Light Key on a computer and really liked that workflow of using Light Key for the lighting, but was told that this was required. And this is a much more complicated thing for people to understand how to add lights to and run. And so that's one thing we didn't get to on this trip, but we'll be working together remotely to switch things over back to Light Key so that, one, it's simpler for people to look at and operate, but two, you'd be able to trigger it from ProPresenter, the lighting cues. So if one person was running lighting in ProPresenter, that'd be pretty tough. ProPresenter's way over there. So if you're able to automate the lighting changes and not have to run back and forth, it'd be a lot easier for one person to be doing both jobs. I've really liked working with Bob leading up to this trip and on this trip. He's worked really hard to document the processes and get the equipment needed to make the job as simple as possible for the people operating it. And we're going to continue to work together to document those processes and refine those processes and systems so that it's a enjoyable and solid setup, a solid system of how to operate lighting, audio, computer graphics through ProPresenter, cameras, so that his volunteers and his team are comfortable and that the technology that is here is helpful to them rather than a hindrance. So if you would like to work with us like Bob did and have us come out to your church in person, you can go to worshipministryschool.com/apply or check out the link in the description. We would love to work with you, and let us know in the comments too. What is it that you've been working on in your ministry? What is it that you would like to accomplish? What's blocking you? We would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.